The average salary for a compliance officer in the UK is more than 60,000. You do not need to have a university degree to work in the compliance sector. If you are someone who's considering a career in compliance, this podcast is for you. If you're living abroad, you're thinking of coming to work in the UK in the compliance sector, this podcast is also for you. And also, if you're someone who is interested in information about obtaining a loan that is favorable to you, this podcast is for you. We have with us today in the studio someone who is an expert in compliance with many years experience. Without wasting your time, can you please introduce yourself to my audience?
Hi, my name is Choma, and I've worked within financial services for about 16 years, various roles, and more recently within compliance.
Choma, thank you so much for coming to speak to us at the
You're
Lunch
welcome.
Club. So let's talk about your career in compliance. How did you get into compliance?
So I would say that my role within compliance wasn't planned. I sort of stumbled into a career within compliance because my first role when I came back to the UK about 5 years ago was as a customer experience manager. And having done that role for a while, I then moved on to another role where they wanted me to manage both customer experience and customer resolutions. It then happened that the customer resolutions bit of it was under the operational risk and compliance department. And then I found out that I was responsible for regulatory returns. I was responsible for reporting some aspects of our firm's conduct to the FCA. And so literally that's how I found myself in compliance. So it wasn't a planned route.
One thing that you've told me today, which I find very interesting, although I've done some research on this, is that you do not need to have a university degree to work in compliance. So how does it work?
You absolutely do not need a university degree to work in compliance at all. Compliance is more a field that requires experience than a university degree. You require experience within areas such as operational management, within managing customers, writing policies and procedure, document checking, those sort of things. Because compliance is a very vast field. So there are aspects of compliance where you might require a bit of education. So, for instance, you need to pick a specialization within compliance. So, if you're going into financial crime, you may find that you may want to get a certificate course within financial crime. But if you're going into things like regulatory monitoring, where you're monitoring and then writing policies and procedure, you absolutely do not need a university degree. You just need some experience within operational management, some experience within document checking, those sort of areas.
Okay, so for someone in the UK, you talked about online courses. Where can they access those courses?
The easiest resource that I can think of off the top of my head is the International Compliance Association. You can just go on Google and you can find their details. International Compliance Association. They have different certificate courses that you can undertake. You can find out, the details from them, and then it's quite straightforward. You go on there, and then you can sort of email them and ask for further information.
Okay, so what about someone living abroad who is interested in coming to work in compliance? What are the things that they can do that would increase their chances of being able to get a job in the compliance sector in the UK?
I think that if you're coming from outside the country, being that you don't have UK experience, it will be a good thing to sort of get yourself, number one, into a role that sort of has like a bit of operations background. So you know that, for instance, I work within financial services, but compliance covers a lot of fields, right? So you can have compliance within the health sector, you can have it within financial services, or even automotive industry as well. So whatever sector that you find yourself in, you need to make sure that you're working within the operational management, because that gives you a broader understanding of that sector and the intricacies of that sector. A second thing that would help you as well is that whilst you're trying to gain experience within, operations and that sort of thing, you should also go on for a certificate course as well, because that immediately highlights you to potential or prospective employers.
And in terms of cost, how much does this cost?
In terms of the cost of the course,
Yes.
different costs for different courses. So there's no set cost. So if you go on the International Compliance Association website and you make your inquiries, they will let you know what each course would cost.
Okay, quick appeal. Launch Club symbolizes progress and economic development of our people. We are working tirelessly to bring experts like Choma to come and share her wealth of experience so that you can use the information that she's providing to improve your life chances. It takes a lot of effort and sacrifice to do what we're doing. You can support us by sharing our videos, subscribing to our YouTube channel, following us on Facebook. We are looking for opportunities for our people in the UK and outside the UK for them to improve their life chances. Thank you so much to those that have been supporting us. If you know anyone who is interested in a career in compliance, if they live in the UK, that's fantastic. They live abroad, this podcast is something that they can gain a lot from. That is my quick appeal. So Choma, we've talked about someone in the UK and someone outside the UK. Now, I just want you, considering somebody that you know who is considering a career in compliance, but they lack the self-belief and knowledge. What are the key things that you would like to say to that person that you think will help them?
Okay, the first thing that I'll say to them is, number one, you need to pick a specialization.
Okay.
Compliance is very vast. There's GDPR.
Okay.
There's financial crime. There's anti-money laundering. There's regulatory monitoring. So pick an area that you are interested in. That will be a starting point. Now, all these areas that I've mentioned is not by no means, the limits. There are other areas within. There's also quality assurance, also within compliance as well. So you just need to pick the niche that you're interested in. Now, once you've picked the niche that you're interested in, say for instance, you're interested in financial crime, then you need to go ahead. If you're lacking the confidence, the best thing to do is to take a certificate course. You do not need a degree. But I must add that there are some universities that have degree courses. I know that, for instance, the University of Manchester has an MSc in financial crime and compliance that you can undertake. And I believe that they are also associated with the International Compliance Association as well. Okay. So you could do that. But the thing with MSc is that they cost a lot more. So the certificate course, I believe, will do, but it depends on what you think is best for you and the niche that you've chosen.
Okay, that's good. So you have a lot of experience when it comes to the compliance side to make sure financial institutions, they give loan to people that can afford it. Their affordability check, they have done correctly. A lot of our people, they have been given loans which in some cases they are unable to pay or they are struggling. And these loans, some of our people have CCJ as a result of situations I've just described. And a lot of them cannot buy houses or obtain loan today because of these conditions. How can they remedy that?
The first thing is, if you've taken a loan and you think that the loan has been given to you irresponsibly, and when I say irresponsibly, what I mean is that you feel that the company or the firm that's giving you the loan has not done their due diligence. Say, for instance, you've told them that you pay house rent of £400, but on your bank statement, they can clearly see that you're paying £700 a month to your landlord. The onus lies with the firm to make sure that whatever you're telling them is the truth. So if you feel the firm has not done their due diligence, you can actually go back to the firm and raise a complaint. Is that you'll be raising something called a complaint, and it's titled an irresponsible lending complaint.
Yeah.
And you'll be telling the firm that the loan that they've given to you was unaffordable. That means you cannot afford it. Maybe by the time you finish paying off the loan, you're unable to pay for your basic needs such as food or clothing. And then the onus now lies with the firm, right, to investigate and dig deep and find out if what you're telling them is true. They'll probably ask you for bank statements, although in most instances, they already have your bank statements, right? So they'll be cross-checking to make sure that they have actually given you that loan affordably. If they feel like they've done the wrong thing, the firm will come back to you and, tell you that, oh, we've done the wrong thing here, and therefore you do not need to pay the interest on this loan again. Only pay the capital on the loan.
Okay.
And then if you haven't paid up to the capital, then you even have the option of, rescheduling the loan if you want to, right?
Yeah.
If you want to. But then absolutely they have to write off the interest on that loan. If you've paid off the loan completely, then all they have to do is to pay back all of the interest that you've paid on that loan plus 8% interest. So if the firm rejects your complaint and says that, for instance, that, oh, we did the right thing, you can then take your complaint to the Financial Ombudsman Service and provide the Financial Ombudsman Service with the evidence. You fill out a form, you provide them with all of the evidence that you've got. But then the Financial Ombudsman would then investigate the complaint. They act as an impartial service between the lender and yourself, and then they cross check, and then they decide who is right or wrong between the customer, and they may decide in your favor. Now, the only downside to all of this is that if the firm agrees with you, right, that you've done the wrong thing, or the Financial Ombudsman rules in your favor that the firm has done the wrong thing, the only downside to it is that you may not be able to get a loan with that firm again in the future, right? But on a scale of 1 to 10, I think is a risk that is worth taking.
Okay. Does irresponsible lending, does it apply in situation of credit card?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people from our community, the credit card debt is a big problem. So how does it work? Is it the same process that you've just explained?
Exactly the same process. If you feel like the firm hasn't, so with credit cards, they will ask you, they don't go into as much detail as when you're taking out a loan. So when you're taking out a credit card, they don't start asking you, let's see your bank statements, let's see all of that, right? But you can still raise an irresponsible lending claim for credit card as well.
Okay. That's quite interesting. So we've covered how people can get into compliance if they live in the UK, if they live abroad, and how to obtain they've taken loan, which they think that the bank did not do their due diligence well before giving a loan, they can use the irresponsible lending. Is there any information that you think it will help? Because our people, when it comes to home ownership in the UK, we are lacking behind at Launch Club. That is something that we are aggressively pushing towards to make sure that our people do not stay in homes where they are helping other people to pay their mortgage, when this money, they could be using it to pay their own mortgage and build generational wealth for the next generation. So what information do you think that our people need to be aware of, which they're not aware of now?
Okay, so I think that in that regard, I think the most important thing is keeping your credit record clean. And by keeping your credit record clean, I mean ensuring that you're making your payments on time. And most importantly, don't use more than 50% of your credit card at any given point. It impacts your credit rating. It makes your credit rating fall. So just ensure that you're not using more than 50% of your credit card limits at any given point in time. Also make sure that things like missed payments, because those are what they call in the credit bureau payment markers. So it shows in your credit record that you've missed payments and how long you've missed those payments for. So typically, if you've missed a payment for about 6 months, it's then called a default. Prior to then, it's called an arrear, or you're in arrears. But by the time you hit the 6-month trigger, it now becomes a default. So you need to ensure that you're not falling into any of these traps. If you feel at any point in time that you're having any payment difficulty, right, it's best to speak to your lender and tell them. They would have options for you, sort of like a reschedule, right?
Yeah.
You can do a reschedule, you can do a deferment on your loan, but note that doing a reschedule and a deferment can have different impacts on your credit record. So you need to speak to your lender to determine which one is the best for you, right? So that's what I would absolutely say. Another thing is you need to avoid things like CCJs. So CCJs would only stay on your credit record for about 6 years, and all negative markers will stay on your credit record for about 6 years. After 6 years, they sort of don't show up on your credit record any longer. But in that 6 years interim, if you need to do something, they're going to be showing up as payment markers, and then it's difficult for you to get a loan. So it's important to keep your credit record as clean as possible. Make sure that you're making your repayments on time when you need to make your repayments. Make sure you're not missing any payments. If you think you're falling into problems, speak to your lender and agree a repayment plan, just so that you avoid getting into trouble. I'm absolutely try to avoid CCJs or something like an IVA. There are situations where people cannot avoid IVA, but it's something that has to be well thought out because those are payment markers that stay on your credit record and take a while to come off.
Okay, quick appeal. This beautiful shirt that I'm wearing now was designed by a British Ghanaian based in London. The guy has a lot of amazing collections and they are very, very affordable. I'm going to leave a link to their website on the description in this video so that you can have a look at the website. They've got a fantastic collection. I think you should have a look and give them a try. They've got good things and I'm sure you will not be disappointed. So that is a quick appeal. So Choma, thank you so much. Before we end this, is there anything that you think that our people in the UK and outside the UK that you think that they need to be aware of when it comes to either compliance, when it comes to working in compliance in the UK, when it comes to loan, when it comes to career opportunity for themselves in the financial sector that you think that they should be aware of?
Oh, if you want one critical thing that I've not talked about within financial services is if you want to work within financial services in this country, you need to keep your credit record clean.
Okay.
If your credit record is not clean, most times firms within financial services will not recruit you. And when I mean clean, if you have one or two payment markers, it might not be so bad. But things like CCJs and IVs, some firms frown at it. So you have to be careful. Another thing is that you have to try to build up the experience. Firms like to see that you've built up experience. So it may not always be that the role that you want to go into is the exact role that you're in currently, but you need to show them the transferable skills that you've got and things that you've done within that area that you can bring into the new role that you're going into. And another thing is networking. You need to network outside of your community. So don't restrict yourself to networking within people in your locality, within people that are of the same race. Network and get to know people around you. That's what I would say, because you find out that a lot of the job referrals are from people that you know. People only recruit people that sometimes they know. It doesn't always happen that way, I must say, but you find that you can get a referral for a job from somebody that you know.
Okay, thank you so much, Emma. So you've heard now, like I said at the beginning, the average salary in compliance is more than £60,000. That's a lot of money, and you do not need to have a university degree. I cannot stress this enough to work in the compliance sector. If you know anyone who is interested in a career change and work in the compliance sector in the UK, who lives in the UK, please make sure you share this video with them. And that also applies to anyone outside the UK who is interested in coming to work in the financial sector. Please also share this video with them. And I think if you also know anyone who you think that banks or financial institutions may have lent money to them irresponsibly without doing their due diligence, make sure you share this video with them because they might actually be able to use the irresponsible lending to get that money wiped off their credit and the credit rating. If they have any CCJ because of that, that can also be removed from their credit. Please continue to support us and share these videos. We've got a lot of fantastic things that you will benefit from. Thank you so much. Shoma, congratulations for the house, by the way. For the
Thank you.
for the new house. Thank you.